The following footage was captured by a CCTV camera inside a clothing and sports shoe store. According to the employees, unexplained disturbances had been occurring for several months. Small things at first, subtle movements, odd noises after hours. But recently, they claim the activity escalated, becoming far more aggressive and impossible to ignore. Without anyone near it, one of the store's doors suddenly slams shut. The force appears strong enough to startle the young man working inside. He cautiously approaches, looking around to see if someone might have pushed it or if wind could have caused it, but nothing appears out of place. No one is there. The store seems completely still again, at least for the moment.
Yeah, I'm going, bro. Barrel 3 cup.
Just 1 week later, the situation takes a turn that leaves little room for easy explanations. A shoe suddenly falls from its display without anyone touching it. When the employee bends down to pick it up, the shoe flips over on its own, as if reacting to his movement. The timing is what makes the moment so unsettling. It doesn't appear random, it feels reactive. Within seconds, both workers panic and rush out of the store, unwilling to remain inside any longer. Since then, opinions online have been divided. Some argue that vibrations, air pressure, or structural issues could explain it. Others believe the movement looked deliberate. So what do you think? Coincidence, physics, or something else entirely? Now some doors may slam on their own, but sometimes the most terrifying events don't involve shadows at all. They involve people. Which brings us to Jennifer. Quick interruption. If you're enjoying this video, why not hit that subscribe button? We're on a mission to hit 500,000 subscribers, and when we do, 3 lucky fans will win a limited edition CreepyVids hoodie or shirt. Right now, 61.4% of you watching haven't subscribed yet. It's completely free, and your support helps us make even more awesome videos. So, don't miss out. Subscribe now, and let's get back to the video. 24-year-old Jennifer Kessie was careful. She carried pepper spray everywhere she went. She made phone calls while walking through dark parking lots. She chose to live in a gated community with security guards. She followed routines. She minimized risk. But on January 24, 2006, none of those precautions were enough. Just 2 days earlier, Jennifer had returned from a vacation in the Virgin Islands with her boyfriend, Rob Allen. She was settling back into her normal life at the Mosaic at Millennia Condominiums in Orlando, Florida. Her routine was predictable, almost mechanical in its consistency. Every single morning, without fail, she would send Rob a good morning text or call before heading to work. He later described it as being like an alarm clock. That's how dependable she was. That morning, his phone stayed silent. Between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., Rob called repeatedly. Every attempt went straight to voicemail. By mid-morning, Jennifer's employer contacted her parents. She hadn't shown up for work, something completely out of character for a woman who had just received a major promotion. Her parents immediately contacted the building manager at the Mosaic and asked him to check her apartment. The door was locked from the outside. Using a spare key, the manager entered. Inside, everything appeared normal. No signs of forced entry, no clear struggle. But her car was missing from its designated parking spot. Her purse, phone, and keys were gone. Then came a chilling realization. Jennifer had expressed concerns about her living situation. The Mosaic was still under construction. Workers moved freely throughout the complex. Some were reportedly living inside vacant units. According to the family's private investigator, at least 10 men were staying in the unit directly across from Jennifer's. She had confided to multiple people that some of the workers made her uncomfortable, directing inappropriate comments toward her and other women. Management had allegedly told her there was little they could do. 2 days later, police located Jennifer's black 2004 Chevy Malibu at Huntington on the Green, a separate condominium complex roughly a mile away. A resident recognized the car from news coverage. Surveillance cameras showed the vehicle arriving around 1 p.m. on January 24th. The person driving was clearly not Jennifer. The driver remained inside the vehicle for approximately 30 seconds, long enough, investigators believe, to wipe down surfaces. Then the individual exited and walked past a series of fence posts. The surveillance system captured still images every 2 to 3 seconds. In each frame, a fence post perfectly obscured the person's face, every single time. Search dogs later traced a scent from the abandoned vehicle back toward the Mosaic complex. Witnesses reported seeing Jennifer's car earlier that morning swerving as it left the parking lot, as if someone inside was struggling to control it. Forensic analysis yielded almost nothing. No blood, no definitive DNA, only an unusual pattern in the dust on the hood, possibly indicating pressure or movement during a struggle. At one point, a woman identified the surveillance figure as a maintenance worker known as Chino, who had done repairs in Jennifer's unit before her vacation. He was in jail on unrelated charges when investigators questioned him. He denied involvement, passed a polygraph, and maintained his innocence. But there was a problem. Chino stood 5 feet 9 inches, noticeably taller than the individual seen on camera. In 2018, Jennifer's parents sued the Orlando Police Department and gained access to more than 16,000 pages of investigative documents. Within those files, they discovered something that had not been fully pursued. Shortly after Jennifer disappeared, a witness reported seeing someone dump a 6 to 8 foot rolled carpet into a lake near the Mosaic complex. On the day Jennifer vanished, workers across from her apartment had been installing carpet. In November 2019, a dive team searched the lake. Nothing was found. In 2016, a judge declared Jennifer legally dead. Her father stood in court that day and described it as the hardest thing he had ever done. Nearly 2 decades later, the case remains open. No arrests, no confirmed suspect, just a blurred face behind fence posts and a young woman who vanished despite doing everything right. This was a case grounded in real-world investigation. Now we move into something far more difficult to prove. A man living in Astoria, Oregon, claimed he had been experiencing what he described as ongoing poltergeist activity inside his home. According to him, it wasn't just a single strange incident. It was a pattern. Objects shifting slightly, doors behaving oddly, a constant feeling that something unseen was present. Eventually, the unease grew strong enough that he decided to install a CCTV camera inside his bedroom, hoping that if anything happened again, he would finally have proof. For a while, nothing unusual was captured. Until one night. While he was fast asleep, the bedroom door suddenly slammed shut with a violent force. The impact was strong enough to visibly shake the camera mounted in the room. The abrupt noise jolted him awake. Disoriented and terrified, he began shouting into the darkness, demanding to know what had just happened. But when reviewing the footage, there was no visible figure, no shadow crossing the doorway. Nothing that clearly explains how the door closed so forcefully on its own. Shaken, but still searching for answers, he continued yelling at whatever he believed might be there, his voice echoing through the empty room. Moments later, panic seemed to fully take over. Unable to see or identify a source, he made the decision to flee the room entirely. The clip ends with him leaving in fear, the door still closed, the room appearing completely still once again, as if nothing had ever happened. After the footage circulated online, viewers were divided. Some argued that pressure differences in older homes, air drafts, or faulty latches could easily cause a door to slam. Others pointed out the apparent force behind it and questioned whether a simple mechanical explanation would be enough. The man himself believed something was deliberately interacting with him. Something he couldn't see, but could clearly feel. Was it a structural issue inside the house? A dramatic but natural explanation? or something that truly doesn't want to be seen on camera? I'm genuinely curious what you think about this one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're doing that, we move to this footage taken in Galena, Illinois. A street surveillance camera captured something that quickly sparked fear and speculation across the community. It was late at night, the streets nearly empty, illuminated only by scattered streetlights cutting through the darkness. Nothing about the scene seemed unusual at first, just another quiet evening in a small town known for its historic charm. But then a small figure appeared. Dressed entirely in white, the shape moved slowly along the pavement. Long black hair obscured its face, making it impossible to identify any features. Its pace was calm, almost deliberate, not running, not hesitating, simply walking forward as though it had somewhere to be. The stillness of the night only amplified the unease of the moment. As the figure approached the cemetery gate, something even stranger happened. Without stopping, it appeared to pass directly through the locked iron bars, as if they weren't there at all. There was no visible attempt to climb, no pause to open a latch, no indication of physical resistance. At that hour, no child should have been wandering the streets alone, and no human, under normal circumstances, could walk through solid metal. Locals were quick to respond. Galena has long carried stories of haunted buildings and restless spirits tied to its historic past. For some, the footage was immediate confirmation, proof that something from the graveyard had been caught on camera. Others were more skeptical, suggesting camera glitches, lighting distortion, or clever editing. The clip leaves just enough ambiguity to keep the debate alive. Was it an illusion created by shadows and frame timing? A trick of perspective? Or did that camera truly capture something that wasn't bound by the same physical rules as the rest of us? What do you think you're really looking at here? One thing is for sure, legends and restless spirits make for chilling footage. But sometimes the horror we face isn't supernatural, it's calculated. On August 28, 2003, 46-year-old Brian Wells walked into a PNC bank on Peach Street in Erie, Pennsylvania, with a bomb locked around his neck. Security cameras captured everything. Earlier that day, during the lunch rush at Mamma Mia's Pizza, a call came in requesting delivery. The owner struggled to understand the caller and handed the phone to Brian Wells, a quiet and soft-spoken employee. The order was for 2 large sausage and pepperoni pizzas to be delivered to Peach Street. Brian left the shop. He never returned. Roughly 2 hours later, he appeared on live news broadcasts across the country. Surveillance footage showed him inside the bank, remarkably calm given the metal collar device fastened around his neck. Witnesses later described him casually sucking on a lollipop and even swinging his shotgun cane in a manner one observer compared to Charlie Chaplin. He demanded $250,000, but ultimately left with only $8,702. 15 minutes later, in the parking lot of an Eyeglass World, police apprehended him. He was handcuffed, seated on the pavement. The device around his neck was visibly ticking and beeping. A bomb squad was called. Brian pleaded for help. He insisted he was a hostage. He told officers that 4 men had forced the collar bomb onto him near a transmission tower and handed him detailed instructions for a scavenger hunt. If he completed the tasks, the bomb would be removed. 3 minutes before the bomb squad arrived, the device detonated. Brian died instantly. Inside his vehicle, police found a handwritten set of instructions outlining the scavenger hunt. Investigators later retraced every step and reached a critical conclusion. It was not humanly possible to complete the tasks within the allotted time. The bomb was programmed to explode after 55 minutes. There was no remote detonator, no chance of mercy. The investigation eventually led to Marjorie Deal Armstrong, a woman with a deeply troubling history. In the 1980s, she had been charged with murdering her boyfriend, Robert Thomas, but was acquitted after claiming self-defense despite shooting him 6 times. Her husband, Richard Armstrong, later died under suspicious circumstances, officially ruled a cerebral hemorrhage after allegedly striking his head on a coffee table. Less than a month after Brian's death, a man named William Bill Rothstein called police to report a body in his freezer. The deceased was James Roden, Marjorie's boyfriend. Bill claimed Marjorie had killed him during a dispute and paid him $2,000 to help conceal the body. While in prison, Marjorie admitted she had knowledge of the pizza bomb plot. She claimed to have provided the egg timers used in the device, but accused Bill Rothstein of being the mastermind. Bill, however, had died of cancer in 2004. Kenneth Barnes, another conspirator, later testified that the group had discussed elaborate money-making schemes. Marjorie allegedly suggested murdering her father for inheritance money. When that plan failed, the idea shifted to robbing a bank without physically entering it. In 2010, Marjorie was convicted and sentenced to life plus 30 years. She died of breast cancer in 2017. Kenneth Barnes died in 2019. The truth, in many ways, died with them. Whether Brian Wells was a willing participant or an unwilling pawn remains debated. But one fact is certain. The plan was designed so that he would not survive. The scavenger hunt was impossible from the start. The pizza bomber case was a plan designed to end in death. This next clip is quieter, but no less unsettling. A young woman named Lana uploaded a video that quickly exploded across social media, racking up more than 23 million views in a remarkably short time. What made the clip spread so rapidly wasn't flashy editing or dramatic storytelling. It was how ordinary everything looked at first. Late one night, Lana was sitting alone in her room, casually scrolling through her phone, unaware that anything unusual was about to happen. The setting felt calm, familiar, almost boring in its normalcy. And that's exactly why what followed unsettled so many viewers. Without warning, a strange hand appears from behind her and gently touches the top of her head. There is no dramatic buildup, no obvious visual trick, just a sudden physical interaction that shouldn't be possible if she was truly alone. Lana immediately reacts, startled and confused, jumping up to search the room. She checks behind her, looks around the corners, scans every visible space, but there is no one there. According to her, the doors were locked and no one else was inside the house. The moment felt real, and her reaction didn't seem rehearsed. Not long after, she posted a follow-up video explaining exactly what happened that night and insisting it was not staged.
Observe momento que vai aparecer negócio aqui. E quem tá dizendo que é uma porta que tem aqui, eu vou mostrar agora pra vocês que não tem porta nenhuma. Pronto, tá aqui, ó, a poltrona onde eu estava, o carregador, a câmera ali. Aqui não tem porta, tá? Aí aqui, quando deitar, a pessoa vai mexer aqui, ó, na minha cabeça. Vai aparecer aqui, gente, ó. Perceberam que aqui, ó, é o carregador. Aonde eu mostrei não tem porta aqui, ó. Olha agora, ó, olha, olha. E sabe o que acontece? Eu puxo ainda. Eu vou puxar. Olha, eu acendi a luz. Ó.
In her explanation, Lana maintains that she cannot identify what touched her. She says she has replayed the footage countless times, trying to rationalize it, trying to find a logical answer. But the more she watches it, the less sense it makes. Since the incident, she has expressed a growing fear that something unseen may be present inside her home. Whether that fear is justified or not is impossible to confirm. The footage exists. The reaction is real. But what caused it remains open to interpretation. Was it a trick of lighting and perspective, or something far less ordinary? I'm genuinely curious where you stand on this one. Let me know what you think. It's for sure that a mysterious hand on camera is unsettling. But what happens when the threat wears scrubs and carries a badge? 73-year-old James Blanks entered a hospital in Tyler, Texas, complaining of chest discomfort. Doctors determined he required cardiovascular surgery. The procedure went well, but during recovery, he suffered a sudden and unexplained stroke. He did not survive. 7 months later, 68-year-old Ronald Clark underwent a similar procedure at the same hospital. Again, surgery was successful. Again, a sudden neurological event occurred. Ronald passed away. Then, 47-year-old Christopher Greenway came in for routine coronary bypass surgery. He recovered well. A nurse stepped away for lunch. Moments later, a code blue was announced. A CT scan revealed air in his brain, air bubbles that had traveled through an artery, causing a fatal stroke. This marked the third similar death in 8 months. Hospital staff installed surveillance cameras. Yet the events continued. In January 2018, 58-year-old Joseph Keene was admitted for emergency heart surgery. During the night shift, alarms sounded. An MRI revealed massive strokes. Reviewing surveillance footage, hospital executives noticed something chilling. 5 minutes before Joseph's alarm, a nurse entered briefly, then stood at the staff station. That nurse was William George Davis. Footage showed Davis leaving a supply room with a syringe. Less than 2 minutes later, Joseph's event occurred. In an earlier case involving 63-year-old Pamela Henderson, cameras also captured Davis entering her room shortly before she suffered unexplained neurological symptoms. Every incident occurred at night. Every incident happened during shifts worked by Will Davis. After Davis was suspended, the unexplained strokes stopped. Born February 3, 1984, in Longview, Texas, Davis had worked as a registered nurse at Christus Mother Frances Hospital. When confronted about Joseph Keene, Davis claimed he had simply responded to an alarm and flushed a line. Surveillance contradicted him. He was seen observing vitals for nearly 3 minutes before intervening. Detective Jeff Roberts and Dr. Charles Crum analyzed medical records and arterial waveforms. Evidence showed deliberate air introduction into arterial lines. Police searched Davis's phone. In a text conversation with someone named Linda, she told him, "Try not to kill anybody." Davis responded, "They don't call me the closer for nothing." His computer history included searches about air embolisms and serial killers, and so, eventually, Davis was arrested. In September 2021, he was convicted of murdering multiple patients, including John Lafferty, Ronald Clark, Christopher Greenway, and Joseph Keene. He was sentenced to death. In a later interview, Davis admitted that after stopping antidepressant medication in 2017, he began experiencing a rush during emergency responses. He described the feeling as control, power, euphoria as medical staff scrambled to save patients he had harmed. Investigators believe he may have killed up to 12 patients between 2016 and 2018. For the families, the grief is compounded by betrayal. Losing a loved one during surgery is devastating. Learning someone may have intentionally caused their death inside a hospital room is something else entirely. And in each of these cases, the final moments unfolded under fluorescent lights, not in dark alleys, but in places meant to heal. Now, after this unbelievable case grounded in cold, documented facts, the next clip pulls us back into the unknown. This eerie video was originally shared on Reddit by a woman who claimed she had experienced something deeply unsettling inside her home. According to her, the night began normally. She returned from work, greeted her dog, and went about her routine. But almost immediately, she noticed something was off. Her dog wasn't acting like himself. Instead of excitement or calmness, he appeared tense and frightened, watching something that didn't seem visible to her. Later, when she reviewed the footage from her security camera, she saw something she couldn't ignore. On the right side of the screen, a faint, translucent white shape becomes visible. It appears to drift slowly toward the dog. The form isn't sharply defined, but it's noticeable enough to stand out against the background. As it approaches, the dog visibly moves away, keeping distance as if reacting to a presence. Moments later, a second shape appears, this time closer, almost beside the animal. The movement seems coordinated, or at least persistent. Since reviewing the footage, the woman has stated she believes something may be attached to her home. She has even considered moving out entirely. Still, others argue that light reflections, compression artifacts, or lens flares could create similar illusions. What do you see when you watch it? Now, this next clip, on the other hand, shows something that is undeniably there, until it suddenly isn't. The room was completely dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of emergency lighting in the corridor outside. Nothing appeared out of place. No movement, no sound, just an empty space monitored by a stationary security camera. Then, without warning, a sudden flash flooded the frame. For a split second, the light overwhelmed the image, and when it cleared, a man was standing inside the room. He wasn't seen entering. No door opened, no window shifted. There was no gradual movement into frame. One moment the room was empty. The next, a fully formed figure was walking across the floor as if he had always been there. His posture was calm, unhurried. There was no sign of panic, no attempt to hide. The building's security guard immediately noticed the anomaly on the monitor and rushed toward the room, convinced he was witnessing a break-in in real time. But when the door was unlocked and swung open, the space was empty. The man was gone. No secondary exit had been triggered. No alarms were set off. No blind spots in the camera system were identified. The guards searched thoroughly, behind furniture, inside storage areas, even checking ceiling panels. There was nowhere a person could realistically conceal themselves. And yet, the footage clearly shows someone there. Viewers who later analyzed the clip were divided. Some argued it could be a camera glitch, perhaps a delayed overlay from another recording feed. Others suggested light refraction, digital corruption, or compression artifacts that accidentally formed a human-like silhouette. But many insisted the movement looked intentional, structured, too precise to be dismissed as random distortion. What unsettled people most wasn't just how the figure appeared, but how naturally he moved once he was there. If this was a break-in, how did he enter? If it was a glitch, why did it look so physical? And if it was neither, then what are we really seeing? I'd really like to hear your take on this one. Now, this next clip recently gained traction across social media. It was reportedly captured by a CCTV camera in China and quickly sparked intense debate online. According to the description shared with the video, a young girl claimed she had come face to face with what she believed was a ghost. The footage shows the girl appearing visibly distressed, reacting to something off camera or possibly just outside the frame. Her behavior suggests fear, genuine and immediate. However, when her sister enters to check on her, she doesn't appear to see anything unusual in the room. The camera itself does not clearly reveal a visible entity, leaving viewers dependent on the girl's reaction and testimony. Because of the limited clarity in the footage, the interpretation rests almost entirely on perspective. Did she truly see something that others couldn't? Was it a shadow, a trick of light, or a product of fear and imagination? With no clear visual confirmation, the final conclusion is left entirely to the viewer. As always, I'd like to know where you stand on this one. And with that, we've come already to the last one of this video. On the evening of July 13, 2019, security cameras at a Fort Nelson gas station in British Columbia captured what would become the final known moments of 23-year-old Lucas Fowler and his girlfriend, Chinna Dees. At 7:30 p.m., they arrived in their blue 1986 Chevrolet van. Lucas filled the tank. Chinna cleaned the windows. At 7:37, they embraced. At 7:38, they walked into the store. Chinna bought ice cream. At 7:47, they drove away toward Liard River Hot Springs, but they never arrived. Lucas, originally from Sydney, Australia, had been traveling the world since 2016. He met Chinna in Croatia. She was from North Carolina and shared his passion for exploration. To continue their journey together, Lucas obtained a working holiday visa for British Columbia. They pooled their savings, purchased the van, and planned to explore Canada before heading toward Alaska. On July 14th, a mechanic named Curtis and his wife Sandra spotted the couple around 3:20 p.m., approximately 20 kilometers from Liard River. The van had broken down. Lucas and Chinna appeared calm, picnicking while waiting for assistance. Curtis offered help. They politely declined. The following morning, July 15th, truck driver Trevor passed the same location around 7 a.m. The van had not moved. The rear doors were open. One window was shattered. In a ditch nearby, he found Lucas and Chinna's bodies. Both had been shot in the head. 5 shell casings were recovered. 5 days later, on July 19th, nearly 200 kilometers south near Dees Lake, another body was discovered. Leonard Dyke, a 64-year-old botanist from Vancouver who often camped alone while conducting research, had also been shot. The same type of shell casings were found nearby. A pickup truck in the area had been deliberately burned. That truck was traced to 19-year-old Cam McLeod. His girlfriend reported that Cam had left on a road trip with his friend Briar Schmigelski. Neither had contacted their families. Surveillance footage showed them purchasing a semi-automatic rifle on July 12th. On July 19th, they were seen driving a gray Toyota RAV4, confirmed to belong to Leonard Dyke. A massive manhunt spanning more than 11,000 square kilometers followed. A local resident described the fear spreading through the community as search efforts intensified, helicopters overhead and checkpoints appearing across remote highways.
Terrifying. You know, sometimes I would travel with me and my children to go to doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, to Terrace. You know, that's 6-7 hours. And to do it alone, I'm not doing it alone ever again.
Despite extensive searches using drones, dogs, military aircraft, and boats, the pair initially evaded capture. On July 29th, police discovered ammunition, a backpack, and Cam's wallet. A sleeping bag was spotted along the Nelson River. Leonard Dyke's backpack was recovered. On August 7th, during one final river search, a local man named Billy Birdie transported officers along the Nelson River. He noticed a raven circling in brush along the shoreline, a sign, he explained, that something might be there. He steered the boat toward it. Cam McLeod's body was found in the brush on a slope. Briar Schmigelski lay 2 meters below. Both had died from self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Nearby were 2 rifles and Leonard Dyke's video camera. 6 recorded videos found on the camera showed the pair calmly confessing to all 3 murders. They expressed plans to reach Hudson Bay, hijack a boat, and flee overseas. They stated they expected to die within a week. The wilderness, it seems, ended their escape. Billy Birdie was later honored for his role in locating the bodies. He passed away on March 8, 2024, at age 54. Now that was all for today, folks. If you enjoyed these horrifying clips, click to see more on the video on screen.